Hello and welcome to our balloon model making classes. My name's Justo and I'm a circus performer and I've made lots of modelling balloons. And as a circus performer I live in a caravan, and the caravan's not going anywhere today. We haven't got circus shows on, so I'm going to share with you some balloon making. Now the first thing you're going to need is one of these, a balloon pump. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as this one, but it does need to be quite a good pump that will pump up a balloon. And the balloons we're going to use today are these. They're called modelling balloons, and they're slightly different to the balloons you would normally have at a party. They're long and thin, whereas the ones you're used to probably are round balloons, and they come in all different colours. Now the first thing we're going to do is pump up one of these balloons. To pump it up, you put it on the nozzle, the hole in the end, over the nozzle like this, and up the balloon goes. Now you have to remember to keep hold of the balloon quite tightly, because if you don't, as you can see, you have to hold it on there quite tightly or it'll go off. Don't panic, I have got another one in here. Right, let's start again. So put the end of the balloon over the nozzle of the balloon pump and we pump it up. There we go. Now don't pump it all the way to the end. Always leave a little bit at the end here, and that bit at the end there is about half the length of one of my fingers. Now take the other hand, pinch the balloon, and you can pull the pump out. Once you have the pump out, what you need to do is you need to wrap this little bit here, the dangly bit, around 2 fingers. So you do that, and as you can see I've got it wrapped around 2 fingers. And a little dangly bit at the end we put between the fingers. So can you see that? There's a little dangly bit there. And then we grab the bit that goes round the fingers over the top of the dangly bit, and we've tied a knot in the balloon. And there it is. Now the exciting thing we're going to do now is make something out of this balloon. And guess what? We are going to make a sword. Now a sword is one of the most popular things you can make out of a balloon, and one of the simplest things that you can make. The first thing we need to do is take the end that we blew up. Don't start at the end here with the sort of tail bit. Start at the end you blew up. Now you need to make a little blob. So you pinch the balloon about 4 centimeters and then you twist it like this, and you end up with a little blob at the end like that. We then take about 20 centimeters of balloon, 10, 20, and bring that next to the blob, pinch it again and twist. And you should end up with something that looks like a pair of rabbit ears, like that. Now, believe it or not, this is most of the sword already made. All we got to do now is finish it off. And to do that, we bend the balloon, poke it through between the things that look like rabbit ears, pull it through like this, and there's a sword. And you might notice that it's a little bit short at the moment. So what we do is we now inflate this end bit of the balloon, which will make the blade of the balloon a little bit thinner, but make the blade a little bit longer. So we put it under our arms and squeeze it, and as you can see the balloon has filled up and it's much longer, and now you've got a balloon you can defend any clown with. There's the balloon, a sword finished. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to show you some other things you can make out of balloons. So bear with me and I'll see you very soon. Well, hello and welcome back. Now you've just learned how to make a balloon sword. We're going to get a little bit more advanced now and try something that's equally simple to make but is very impressive to look at. It's made with one balloon, and I'll show you what we're going about to make, and it's one of these, a swan. And as you can see, it's a very elegant balloon to make. It's made out of one balloon, and you can make it of any colour you like, but to follow tradition, as most swans are white, I'm going to make mine out of a white balloon. So I'll just lie that down there for now. So if you take your pump and your balloon, put the balloon over the nozzle like you did before, make sure you hold on tight, don't forget, and then pump up the balloon. Now as you can see, I've left a little bit longer than a finger at the end of the skinny bit here. Make sure you leave quite a long bit on the end, because that's quite important for later when we come to making the beak and the head of the swan. Right, round the two fingers again, the dangly bit of the balloon in between, and pull it over and you've got your knot. Right, very simple balloon. Very similar to making the sword. We start off with a blob at this end. Now that is the tail of the swan. We then loop it round and we end up a bit like the sword, where you just poke it through like that and you've got a sword. Well, this time we're going to do a very similar thing. We're going to poke it through, and then on this bit here we press quite hard like that, and you should end up with what looks like a bunch of sausages. Push this end bit through one of the sides in the gap, thread it through like this, and there we have the two wings of the swan and the tail. And you can adjust these to get the angle that you want on the tail, and just going to make mine go a bit more upright like that. Now, what's missing on this swan is the beak and the head. Now this is a very clever bit, because you take the end of the balloon, you bend it down like this, and you hold your finger on it like that, and then you squeeze with both hands, and this is where the magic happens, where you make the neck and the head of the swan. Now I'm going to squeeze now, and watch what happens. It comes round in a circle, and there we have it, a swan's head and a finished swan. There we go, we've got a happy couple there. Now, if you stay with me, I'm going to show you how to make another balloon animal. In fact, what we're going to do now is make something that's not actually an animal, it's something that grows. And I'll see you very soon. Hi again. Now, we've already done a sword, we've done a swan. Now I'm going to show you how to make something that grows. One of these, a beautiful flower. Now this is quite a tricky balloon to make, but to start with, it's quite simple. Just like making any balloon model, it's one process followed by another, little steps that turn into something quite beautiful. Now, I'm leaving a really long bit at the end this time. As you can see, nearly 2 fingers worth. I tie a knot in the end of the balloon like this, round the 2 fingers, and you've got your knot. Now, all you've got to do now to make the stem of the flower is fold the balloon in half and then back again like that. So you get a kind of a little loop in the balloon. Squeeze it in the middle here, and if you squeeze it quite hard and twist, and you end up with the 2 leaves like that on the side. Now this is the middle of the flower, as you can see, this bit here. So what I do is I hold my fingers around the balloon like this, and then I squeeze. Because I'm holding my fingers around the tight bit of the balloon, it'll only inflate at the end like that. There we go. And we end up with a little piece like this. Now that's the stem of your flower, so that's the first bit. Now what colour should we have this flower? I'm going to go for pink, because I think pink and purple go well together, but you can use any colour you like. Now this is probably the hardest thing that I'm going to show you in the balloon course, but it's very impressive for you and your friends if you can do it. Now there's 2 ways of doing this, the easy way and the harder way. The only difference between the easy way and the harder way is the amount of petals you've got. This flower here has 6 petals, but you can do it with 6 or 4 petals. 6 petals is harder, but does look better. Right, now instead of tying in a knot in the end of the balloon this time, what we're going to do is we're going to tie the 2 ends together in a reef knot. So you loop one balloon over the top, and then over and in the other one, so you get like a reef knot. And if you're not sure how to do this, maybe get an adult to help you with it. You're just going to tie the balloons together so you end up with a balloon that's kind of like a loop. Right, now this is the easy way to do it. This is 4 petals for your flower. Squeeze it here on one side about halfway down, rotate the top one, so then you end up with 2 long pieces. Hello! A bit like a couple of lips. Now you do in the middle again, you grip it and you squeeze it again, and now you have 4 lips. Now, take the 2 ends, push them together, squeeze like this, and rotate. And now you have the 4 petals of your flower. And you take your stem, you put that in the middle, and there we have a 4-petal flower. Very, very nice. But I'm going to make it a little bit more tricky this time, because I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of the 4 petals, I'm going to show you how to make 6 petals. And this will impress anybody. So we take the balloon, put it on the pump exactly the same, inflate it. Important to know that you don't make the thing too inflated. If it feels a bit pressurised, just let a little bit of air out, because remember, you're going to be putting a lot of twists in this balloon very shortly, and you don't want to burst the balloon. Right, tie the 2 ends together as we did before. There we go. Right, same thing. Pull the 2 ends apart, and you end up with 2 balloons. Twist the top one. So now you've got 2. Now this is where it gets very tricky, and this is why it's not the most common balloon, but if you can do it, it doesn't half look impressive. Right, so what we're going to do is put 1 hand on the top, 1 hand below, and we make a Z shape like this. So what you want is all the parts of the Z, this bit down here, the bit down the middle, and the bit on this side, all the same length, because they're going to be your petals. Come to the top here, squeeze it, and rotate this bit here. Now a little trick here is to put your finger between, which just stops it undoing. Now the same thing here, squeeze it, rotate it, and just like you did with the 4-petal flower, you put your hands on both ends, so that end there and that end there, so you've got 6 petals in the middle there, and you push. And what you've got to do is get your fingers right around the centre like that. And then to make the flower, all we have to do is very carefully twist these 3 petals against the others, and if we pull our fingers out, we now have the 6-petaled flower. And you just slide it in between 2 of the petals on your stem, and there it is. Now, doesn't that look fun? And I tell you what, if you give it to any grown-up, they'll love you. It's a lovely flower, and I'm going to show you very shortly how to turn this flower into a hat. So stay tuned. See you soon. Welcome back. Now we've just learned how to make a flower. Now these flowers are very useful. You can put the flowers on lots of different models. If you want to make a tree or something, you can have flowers on the end of it. But what I'm going to do now is show you how to make a flower hat. Now it's very simple. If you can make the flower on a stalk, well then you can make a flower hat. Now what we're going to use is yellow balloon, but you can use any colour. This is the band that goes around the head. So inflate it, and don't forget to leave a long piece at the end, because this is what gives the flower its flexibility and life. So tie a knot in the end of the balloon. Then what you need to do is make a loop in it like this, and you want to try putting that around someone's head just to check it fits. Make a little blob on the end here like that, and there you have it. Put the blob at the back, at the bottom, and the stem like this. Now the same as we did it before, hold the balloon like this on the thin bit, leaving a little bit sticking out the end, and then just squeeze it, and you'll end up with the middle of the flower like this bit here. Now that's a hat, but it hasn't got a flower on it at the moment, so we need to make a flower, and I'm going to go for a purple flower. And because the last one was the most complicated that we've done, it's probably very useful for you to see me make the petal part of the flower all over again. So bring it round. Now, as I said before, make sure you don't have too much air in this, So you can actually squeeze it without it feeling too tight. So I'm just letting a little bit of the air out. Let me try and not make the loop. There we go, it's going to be a flower. If you're having difficulty making a loop, you can always get an adult to help you. Now there we go, there's the loop. And as before, stretch it, pinch it here, rotate the top until you end up with two. We then make the Z shape, so one hand above, one hand below, and we go like this. And the idea is we have to manoeuvre it until all the bits are about the same length. Pinch it here, make a rotation, put your finger through like this. And then you can pinch it there. There we go. And now the fun bit, squeeze it together. So you've got the whole thing in one hand with your fingers wrapped round the middle. Twist it once, twice. There we go. And then this piece, just pull two of the petals apart, push it through, and there you have a super hat. I call it the Find My Children range. If you wear one of these, your parents will exactly know where you are. So if you don't want to lose them, they're great hats. Right, now I'm going to come back soon, and the last thing I'm going to show you is something that people have been asking me to show, very popular in balloon making, probably the thing that most people can make, and that's a dog. So stay where you are, and I'll be back with you soon to show you a dog. But to make a dog, put the balloon on the pump it up. Now leave quite a long bit on the end here, just over a finger's length. Take the end of the balloon, pull it off. Now I want our dog to have quite a nice characterful face. So what I'm going to do, before I do anything else, I'm going to give it the tip of the nose. What we do is squeeze the balloon until we get a little blobby bit like that. And then rotate it till we have a very tiny blobby nose like that. Now I've rotated it, and if I put that on the table, I put my finger on it, you can probably see I've got a tiny little balloon there. Now we take the stalk at the end, the bit that you blew it up with, and we just rotate it around the base like that, and then we end up with a nose that looks a bit like this. Now, this is the nose of your balloon, that's going to be the muzzle, and then the next thing we need to make is the ears. So we do a little twist here, and that's about 8 centimeters, I would say, and the next one about there, which is about 10 to 11 centimeters. And then we bring these two together, turn it, and then what we need to do is just rotate the nose until it's in the right position between the balloon, and you've even got a little tongue there, and that's the face of our doggy. There we go, bit of a poodle. Right, so now we're working our way down the balloon. The next thing we need to do is make the legs. So we pinch the balloon again, rotate it, and then again put the two legs together like this, and then squeeze it again. And this is actually quite tricky because it's very easy to make one of the legs inflate more than the others. So there we have nose, muzzle, ears, neck, and two legs. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of air further down the balloon. The last one, about here, in proportion to the balloon. Fold it back on itself, and the same thing. There we have a little doggy. Now, if you're making a giraffe, you'd obviously make the neck bit smaller and make the ears smaller, and obviously the legs longer, and you wouldn't have a big tail like this. Now, what you can do with the tail is hold a little bit here to make it into a poodle, put two fingers around it, and squeeze this bit here, and only the end of the tail will inflate like this. There we go. Give that a pull, and there we have a finished poodle. And that's all there is to it. Have loads of fun making your balloon animals, and I'm sure you can think of some that you can invent. There are loads of things you can make out of balloons, and don't be afraid to experiment. And I'll see you very soon.